Welcome, everybody. Today, it's September 21st, 2023, and we're doing a new thing. We're doing an IC topic chat around firm topics. Firm meaning a consulting firm, or a firm might be defined as somebody more than yourself. You could define it however you want to, but generally it means growing your practice beyond one individual, a solopreneurship. And so years ago, I thought to myself, I got to do something different, and I'm going to get into some of that in a couple slides from here. But I started a firm, and this is the first time I've presented on why be a firm, and it's definitely a question mark because I think you should be thinking through that. I should point out that I have, sorry for you can see my screen there. I want to see my notes. All right. I did create a little survey, and for the folks who are live with me now, I just talked to them about this. You can use your phone to use the little QR code there. You can type in tinyurl.com/firm readiness survey. If you want to see my own personal musings about what I think it means to become a firm, you'll do it's 25 questions on a 5-point Likert scale. There's no mystery here. I'm not trying to fool anybody. If you strongly agree with the statements, that's going to signify you're more ready, at least in my Sunday afternoon musings. There's no research to it. Don't make any life decisions based upon this survey. It does get a score on a 0 to 100 scale. So if you select strongly agree on anything, you get a 4. Congratulations. And then if you select strongly disagree with anything, it'll come up as a 0, 25 items, you get the math. So it'll share with you how ready you are. If you get a 50%, I don't know if that means you're ready or not ready. If you get an 80%, if you're ready. If you get 100, I would say you're probably ready. I haven't done any really thorough research and thought about that, but hey, try it out. Tell me what you think. Feel free to send me a note. Tell me what I did wrong. I'd be happy to see any feedback. I definitely have already gotten a couple comments back, and I've already started to edit the instrument. So it's just a fun little work in progress. If you're thinking about starting a consulting firm or moving from a one-person operation to a bigger operation, here's typically the questions that you're asking yourself. And these are all my worries and my fears and my questions and their feelings. Employer taxes feels as much as like a feeling as a fear and a question. I don't know, all these things. And then I got to the point, this was about several years ago. Am I even going to make a profit, or is this just going to be a big old loss? Will I be working to keep jobs for my staff? And really, I'd be working for them, right? And that's a fear of a lot of people starting to expand. If I hire a person, what does that mean? Why mess this up? And have I lost my mind? I think if you're feeling these things, I get it. That's where I was. And that's sometimes still where I am a couple years into it. So here's my history. Back in 2011, I said, I'll hire myself. So I was a one-person operation. You would call it a solopreneurship. I think it's what we're calling it these days. Or if you're Nina Sabar, it's evalpreneurship is what we're doing. So I had to ask myself back in 2011, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then I started to get some momentum, and I figured out a routine. When do I talk to my clients? What meetings do I go to? Where do I spend my time? What do I invest in professional development with American Evaluation Association or the American Educational Research Association or any other of the associations? How do I invoice? How do I write up contracts? Those are the sorts of things that became my routine. And then I asked myself a question: how long can I keep doing this? Is this more? Is there more? And maybe it's that 5-year, or people talk about after 5 years, you need to change things up. I think I was at that point, at least personally. Maybe it's longer, but around 2016, 2017, definitely 2018, I just feel like my work was suffering because it was routine. It was too routine. I wasn't gaining joy out of it anymore. And this is pre-pandemic, mind you. Um, I wasn't interacting with people as much as I'd like. Then in 2019, I hired my first staff member, and then things started to go very quickly. You can see by 2020, the two of us wrote a big grant that became a big project for us, and we needed to hire several staff. So we had 4.5 people in 2020. Then you could see that today we're at about 13 full-time staff. I think we actually have 14 people with a couple part-time staff, the way I did this with the FTE. So that's full-time equivalency. So now I'm at the, what routines do I need to be developing? So it's kind of repeating itself for me anyway. So that's my own story. So I do have 13 staff members now. Frankly, we probably will have 2 more staff members before the start of the new year. Things are just still moving quickly. There's a lot that's happened once I started to focus on giving people power to go out and connect with clients and create their own opportunities. It's the momentum is building. And we also got lucky just with over time, good things have fallen in our lap. So the next slide, I'd like to talk about who should not start a firm. If this defines you, think hard about why you're doing this. If you don't have a successful niche, if you don't know who to connect with, if you're just barely to keep your own practice alive, don't hire employees, because you're just going to make your tough situation worse. You probably need to figure out how you're doing within your own work. You need to connect with your clients in a way that feels like it's getting overwhelming and you need support. Are you self-conscious and insecure? Because that's going to be a problem. You need to be able to trust your staff, which I think is the next one. If you're a pessimist, just generally about all things independent consulting, if you're a pessimist, this is probably not a career path for you. If you're a pessimist and you're trying to start a firm and you need to trust people to do things that you can't control all the time, it's going to be a long road for you. You're probably not going to be a very happy person. Generally, you have to believe that what you're putting out there, you've got to trust that it's going to work. And so that's an optimistic perspective. So pessimism is probably not a good place for anybody in the independent consulting TIG, I'd say. That's why we're all such lovely people. If you have a lot of uncontrollable responsibilities that take up a lot of your time, think carefully about whether you want to do this, because there's going to be so much unpredictability that happens when you start hiring people and creating policy manuals and trying to figure out health insurance and what does it mean to do payroll through a payroll processor or QuickBooks. There's just, your life's you're not going to know what's going to happen from week to week. It's going to be very hard to predict that for several years. So uncontrollable responsibilities might be like, if you are, and I am in this place right now working with like elder care, and your mom could call you at any moment and you need to drop everything you're doing and rush over to take her to the hospital. That's my situation. I'm in a place now where I'm better around that. But if you're in the process of starting your firm, you need to have dedicated work time to figure things out, because there's going to be a lot of that. If you related to that, but different, if you have a problem with just managing your own time on the stuff you're supposed to do, or you just like to freewheel it around what you want to do with regards to how you're going to do your work. I feel like doing it at midnight today. I'm just going to work on my report at midnight. That's probably not going to be, you need to be a little more reliable with your time, particularly with the way you connect with your staff. If you're organizationally challenged, now most of us are not, because our evaluation practices often are very much connected to organizationally thinking through how the funded projects or the organizations we're working with are operating appropriately, right? So typically this is not our case, but if you just don't believe in rules, you're going to have inconsistency issues with the way you treat yourself and you treat others. You're going to end up with a nightmare. Consistency is really a key thing when you have more than one person working for a firm. You probably are going to set yourself up for tax issues and things with the federal government as well. So for instance, you can't give yourself a better healthcare plan than you give your staff just because you want to, and it's your business. If you don't like working with people, I'd probably steer away from hiring people. You generally want to like working with people. I know that seems hilarious and silly, but truth is you're going to spend a lot of time with people. You need to be able to enjoy them, enjoy your time with them, have a good time. You've got to want to invest in them and invest in their time and in their careers. So there's the next one. If you do not want to invest in others and their success, because that's the only way you're going to make your consulting firm successful, is to really invest in your people. That's your new resource, right? And it's a human resource. You invest in those human resources and those people and those colleagues, those friends of yours that have come to work for you. That's how you're going to find success within your firm. And finally, if you're a greedy ogre, I know I put that in there and I know that's kind of a slur. But what I'm trying to say here is your firm is not going to be successful overnight. I mean, you may even get a lot of contracts right away, but it's going to take time to figure out how to do that. And if you feel like you need to take 50% of all revenue for your own personal purposes, and you want to pay your staff nickels on the dollar for what they're doing, you're going to create a problem within the atmosphere of your business, and that's going to have corollary effects down the road. You'll have problems with everything. You need to think about how your business can invest in your people, and your profit, your ability to make whatever amount of money you wish to make is going to happen down the road. This is a long game. So some things I've learned: your evaluation project better start by thinking about what's your overhead, because you have a lot more overhead with the firm. When it's just me, my overhead was like a computer, it was my internet service, it was some insurance, it was going to the American Evaluation Association conference each year, my car, right? The gas for my car. That's about it, right? A little bit in software. Those things get incrementally multiplied over. I mean, just the expenses get crazy, and it'll blow your mind when you start to see this stuff. Little things like Toggle's free for the first 5 people in your staff. Toggle is a time tracking software that you use on the internet. But you start getting charged at 6. And so those costs per month, per year, add up. Large P&L does not equal large take home. So if you saw our books, you would probably say, oh, well, that's amazing. But I can tell you, and I was telling this to a colleague the other day, I'm still driving a 2017 Honda Odyssey with a janky side window and brake issues. My take home is a little bit better than it was. And we have a little more security in the way that we could tap into things if we want to. But frankly, most of everything that comes in gets reinvested into the company, and that's going to be the case for a while. So I'm not buying a Mercedes-Benz. I don't live high on the hog here. I will perhaps maybe down the road have a lot of security and perhaps be able to sell a firm or something like that. I'm not going to say I'm a completely selfless person. There is a piece of all this where I'm putting a lot of time and effort and I'm taking a lot of risk. The idea that down the road I can have a valuable asset. That's the honest truth. It's part of it, right? This is a challenge to try and start a business that has value for me, but I can't see it from the greedy ogre perspective where I want to take a lot of money out of the business right away. That's not going to, the business won't be sustainable over the long term if I'm not continuing to invest in it, particularly now as I'm growing it with staff. Your larger staff will likely attract larger projects. Even if you're working 1 or 2 people per project, you can attract larger projects because you can put together a team and say, we've got this team Clients feel more comfortable. Clients with larger projects feel more comfortable working with a firm with larger staffs who it demonstrates to them that you're going to be around for a while, that you're committed, that you're dedicated to this. I have a client who has someone in their community who is a wonderful resource, but they're a one-person operation, and they come to me when they have bigger projects. And I've always found that kind of curious because I know this other individual is very capable to do the work, but they're like, well, this is a big project, so we got to bring it to you. The other individual could do it very well, but I know that they're coming to me because I have a staff that gives them some level of confidence. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 50. What's happening when you bring a group of people that are committed to a cause that you encourage to connect with one another is they are making each other smarter, better. They're connecting with one another in it's just a magical way, and it's been fun to watch. We have a book club that's about, in fact, if you haven't gotten this book, it's right here, Evaluation Time by Gail Barrington and Beverly Triana Tremaine. They're going to be at the AEA conference. They'll be sitting at the book fair. Get this book. It's a great book. We went through it chapter by chapter as a group, and it was a wonderful staff development exercise, definitely professional development exercise. A lot of us have been doing evaluation for a long time, and every one of us were learning things every single week. We're going to redo that book club again for our newer staff coming up soon. But that was wonderful to watch. We have a big commitment in our firm towards interactive data dashboards. It started with Microsoft Excel. We're in Power BI and Tableau. And there's kind of an expectation that if you come and work for our firm, you learn dashboarding. And it's just like amazing for our clients. It's like catnip to the clients. They love it. And I love the fact that the clients are so happy. Anyway, you see a multiplicative of effect happening when you have staff together. It's really cool. You need to have empathy and equity and stewardship and other things to create a team. You don't put people in a place, give them a project, leave them alone and walk away. You need to continue to connect with them and create opportunities for other people to connect with them. And I think that's why people like coming to work for firms. You have to let go. This is going to be the hardest thing you do. At a certain point, your project, I had projects that I had for several years. I said, okay, it's your project. And it's a bit like, we also, in my family, we just had my daughter went off to the university, and we have to let go and let her live her own life. Well, with your projects, you have to let your projects, some of them that you've had, you need to transition them off, and you need to extricate yourself. You can't be involved with every last detail because you're going to drive yourself bonkers, completely nuts. If you need to be involved with everything, it's just not going to happen, because you're going to have to take care of bigger picture issues. Related to that, if you love evaluation and the evaluation work that you do, and that's what you do all the time, and that's what you love, and the whole idea of working around an administrative structure with your staff scares you, frightens you, makes you feel sick to your stomach, you probably need to think again about why you want to do this, because you won't be doing as much evaluation. You may be doing very little evaluation. If that's what fills you up, you're not going to have as much time to do that, because you're going to be thinking about accounting. You're going to be thinking about lawyers. Speaking of which, love your professional service community. And what I mean by that is, who's the accountant that's going to help you figure out your annual taxes and whether you're putting enough away to your state and your federal government on a quarterly basis, and helping you do an audit for the one project that's over $750,000. Who is the lawyer who's going to review your contracts or develop your contracts? Who's your business coach who's going to help you think through what you're doing? What the heck am I doing? So love those people, meaning invest your time in them, because they're going to make your business better. They're going to make your life easier. Know your banker. And I generally suggest knowing these people, not just working through some kind of online system. Get to know physical people who you can meet with and have lunch with and have coffee with and things like that, because those relationships are going to be absolutely golden down the road. Wear a seatbelt. Generally wear a seatbelt while you're driving, but definitely wear a seatbelt while thinking through this, because there's going to be a lot. It's a roller coaster ride. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. I'm in the middle of both right now at the exact same time. I'm at a peak, exciting stuff happening, but even the exciting stuff is scary. I've got scary stuff happening, and it seems to be nonstop. You do end up having to grow a thicker skin around some of the stuff, because it's, you know, I've been talking about to a couple people recently, things kind of move back and forth on a needle, little bit by little bit. You have a big, you win a $10,000 a year project, woohoo, and then one rolls off. Oh no. But when you're a firm, the needle just flies further up and further down, and it can feel a little like you're losing your stomach at times because it moves so quickly. Can be very exciting, but you got to be careful not to get too upset when it goes the wrong direction. You are developing equity and security by creating a firm, and I think that's a good thing. I'm not going to say much more about that, because I think that's going to be kind of in the next piece. Why should you start a firm? Here's my 5.5 reasons. This is my Gitomer's little black book of selling 5.5 principles. 5.5 reasons to start a firm. First, it's an opportunity to make a change. I mean, you should think about this as an opportunity to do something good in your world. Your staff are going to have a greater impact as a group of 13 people than as a group of 1. You can go out. For us, we're committing to serving Department of Defense communities, university communities that are thinking through DEI initiatives for scholarships, for students who would not necessarily be able to afford college. We're thinking through our opportunity to help school-based mental health in the state of Illinois. That's amazing. It's amazing. And I couldn't do that. I get to be a part of all that. So I get to attach my company's name to really cool things that we're doing. That's the number one reason I would start a firm, is because you believe in what you're doing and you've got the opportunity to make a bigger change. To create relationships with your staff, to create relationships with important people who are policymakers or who are wield money and power and things like that. You have an opportunity to do more of that when you start a firm for your own professional development. Okay, professional development around what it means to be a business. Professional development because your staff will force you to learn more about what you claim to know, because you'll have to know it that much better, because you'll have to share it with them, and then they will challenge you because they're good, smart people. Related to that, the opportunity to mentor others. And finally, and I put this at the end of the list, is to think about security and equity. We are doing this. We are independent consultants. We own firms. We do this for the purposes of security for our own personal selves. You're building equity, and hypothetically, you're building a valuable asset over time. And I do think about that, and I am reflective on that. I'm going to do a different series, just the same idea, with a colleague who's on the line today, and we're going to be talking about this from what it's like to start a practice or a research center. And you're going to create, you don't get the same kind of equity. You're creating equity for the university in that situation, and that becomes a revenue source for an institution. You're perhaps giving yourself tenure, and that's security in its own right. But as the independent consultant perspective, you are creating an asset that's valuable. We have had some colleagues recently step away from their firms, and they sold them. I don't know what they sold them for. I imagine it's enough to retire on and have a nice little nest egg. And so there is a piece of that certainly is independent. If you've got the other pieces in place, this might be a good idea for you financially. Finally, you get to afford more swag, because who doesn't love swag? Here's my shirt today. We have some upcoming sessions. Next week, Heidi and Becky are going to be talking about how to hire subcontractors. We do have a regular subcontracting core topic session, which we are rescheduling because I had a family emergency a couple of weeks ago. So subcontracting, I know, is a big topic for a lot of us because this is a place we look to connect with one another so we can create subcontracts. Not subcontracting, but contracting is the core topic on 10/5 on October 5th. And that will be, I'm going to share samples of contracts and ways to think about what it means, things that should be included in the contract, things to question about contracts. Oh, sorry. There's no session on October 12th because we're all going to be at AEA, right? Well, I will be. So if you're there, definitely come find me. Come to the session it actually will be on Thursday, October 12th in the afternoon. So come to the session. It will be on, wait for it, IC topic chats, because that's all I seem to talk about these days. We were going to do the Meet the Pros on October 19th, but that's just come into question this morning. I think we're going to reschedule that for December so we can get some more participation from our presenters. So hold the phone on that one. There will definitely be an October 19th session. I just don't know what it will be. And then Nathan Browning from the ICTIG board is going to join us on October 26th to further our conversation around the ICTIG survey. He's going to be thinking about demographics. So I can't wait to see what he has to say. And I'm going to do another IC firm session on November 9th, talking about time, costs, and overhead. I have no idea what I'm going to say yet. Hold on, we'll figure that out. And that's it. Thanks, everybody. Stick around if you're here live to chat. Otherwise, everybody out in YouTube land, I'll see you next time.